Welcome to Uncopyable Women in Sales. If you're looking for actionable insights and real-world tools to turbocharge your sales starting tomorrow, well, you're in the right place. Your host, Kay Miller, earned the affectionate nickname Muffler Mama when she sold more automotive mufflers than anyone else in the world. In this podcast, Kay will talk to another superstar woman in sales as they reveal uncopyable strategies you can use to rack up more leads, snag dream clients, and take your sales numbers through the roof. Stay tuned and get ready to make more sales and how about this? More money.
My guest today is Jennie Bellinger, also known as the Direct Sales Dom. Jennie is a certified professional coach. She's also the host of the Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast. She works with badass direct sales leaders with ADHD to help them focus on the activities that will lead to maximum business growth. Jennie, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, Kate, thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to talk to you.
I know. And you say again, we've talked a couple different times. I was on your podcast, which I definitely recommend, the Badass Sales Mastery podcast. And also I talked to you because Steve and I are writing a book on branding, and you have such a great brand. You can inspire other people, and I think that they'll learn a lot from you. But today I want to talk to the Direct Sales Dom, as you refer to yourself. What a great brand. And I would like to have you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So my journey to becoming the Direct Sales Dom started with me being a middle school science teacher. I left teaching to have my kids, tried to go back to teaching. It didn't quite work out. And so, asked the universe, okay, what if I'm not supposed to be teaching, what am I supposed to do instead? And that's when I got introduced to direct sales as a business opportunity. And so in 2010, I started my direct sales journey, and within a few months had earned my first promotion. A few months later had double promoted. And then I think like a month after that, earned my first 2 trips with the company. And I was just flabbergasted. Like, oh, wow. So in a year, holy crap, I'm selling well and I'm growing a team and things are going really well. This is awesome. This is amazing. And about 6 years into my journey, I realized that there were a lot of people coming and going in the business. And it really broke my heart because I know every single one of us who starts in direct sales, and this is true for all entrepreneurs, when we start our business, we have a dream.
We're excited.
There's something we want this. Yeah, there's something that we want this to create for us, right? Whatever that dream is, whether it's, pay for ballet lessons for your kiddo, or, get select soccer or sports, fees paid for, or a family vacation paid for like once a year, whatever that dream is. Or for some people, it's so much higher. It's that 6-figure income that they can do from home. And they get to be their own boss, like whatever that dream is. There's so many different dreams out there. And every time somebody left the business, it was a dream let go, a dream that they gave up on, right? Because this was their vehicle.
Sad.
And it made me incredibly sad. And I was like, well, if they're having trouble being successful in this industry, but there's those of us who are, what I wanted to figure out was what made the successful people different from the people who gave up, other than the fact that they gave up, right? Because there were so many things that factored into the decision to quit. And so I've been on a mission to figure out what that is, what makes successful people successful in the direct sales industry. And not too surprising, there's things like consistency, persistence, not giving up, and so many other little things that add up to that level of success for people. And so the Direct Sales Dom came around because I wanted to help people whip their business into shape. I'm not whipping people. We're whipping businesses into shape.
Right. Good distinction.
So the direct sales dom is really just a way to help, get people's attention because, in branding and marketing and sales, it's so important to have something that sets you apart because there's a million sales coaches out there. There's a million leadership coaches out there. But the people who are attracted to me because of that fun twinkle that I have that I include, this direct sales dom, my badass direct sales mastery, BDSM. I include that as a tongue-in-cheek, fun way of talking about sales and leadership. And it also just really helps me figure out who's willing to step outside their comfort zone.
Right. And it makes you uncopyable. We've talked about that before. Nobody else is going to call themselves the direct sales dom. Because you've got that pretty much covered and you talk about your badass women that you help and most of your moose are women. You said the direct sales industry is dominated by women. Talk a little bit about the kind of women that you're looking for.
The women that I work best with are the direct sales leaders who have ADHD. So, and the reason is because they were promised when they started their business that they would have all this financial freedom, that they'd have all this time freedom when they hit that leadership level. And these ladies have hit the financial freedom piece. They're making the money that they wanted to make, or they're very close to hitting their goal, or maybe they've grown their goal. But the time freedom is escaping them. And it's because they don't know the things that I know that can help them get their time back, right? And
because
really allow them.
Busy versus effective, right? They're doing a lot of things, but they're not doing the right things, I'm guessing.
Right. And they may or may not be delegating. They may or may not be delegating the right things to the right people. How do you do that? And plus, when ADHD is a factor, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed, I don't care, right? There are strategies that work for people like me. And I know them because I am that person and I'm constantly learning new strategies, new ways to help people with this so that they can really focus when they are working their business and be able to not be pulled in 30 different directions all at the same time, which makes them less effective.
Right. And you have ADHD yourself, right? So
exactly.
I'm sure everyone has heard of that and knows what it is, but really, it's a difficulty focusing, right?
It's a little bit of that. And there's also the interesting other side of that coin is that we also have this amazing ability to hyper focus on that, which gives us the most dopamine, right?
Interesting. Okay.
It's our brains are so different. And our brains evolved this way because this is what kept tribes alive back in the day, right? That's why our brains evolved for this, because you had to have people who, when the grass was moving, could be like, oh, that's a saber-toothed tiger. We should get ready to protect ourselves because it's stalking us, right? Whereas other people who are, more neurotypical, right, maybe wouldn't have noticed the grass moving. And we just went, ooh, what's that? Right? Because so that's where that came from. But that portion doesn't always serve us. But the hyperfocus can serve us and also be a disservice for us, right? Because anybody who knows me in my personal life knows that my hyperfocus is my business.
You love it, what you're doing, and that shows.
I get so much dopamine from this. And so I talk about it all the time, and I'm thinking about it all the time. And I'm always talking to people about, sales, marketing, different things, whether they're in business or not. That's my info dump that I do, because that's something else that people with ADHD love to do, is be like, here's this thing that I'm passionate about. Let me share all the things that I know about it with you right here.
Excited and enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
and I know that about you. So you branded yourself in a really unusual way. You said you've transitioned to working with sales leaders.
Yes.
And you do coaching, you have courses. What all do you offer?
Yeah, great question. So I do coaching, training, and consulting. A vast majority of what I do is coaching, working with people who are in the sales and leadership spaces of direct sales, network marketing, and multi-level marketing. And I do private coaching, group coaching. Those are that's my bread and butter. My superpower in the world is training. Love, love, love training. So some of my coaching also, sometimes I sprinkle in some training as needed, but training is another thing that my company does. So, direct sales leaders will sometimes hire me just to come in and train their team, so that's one less thing that they have to think about and try and prepare for and do, because I've got a whole menu of trainings that they can pick from to be able to train their team, so that they don't have to think about it. They can just show up, get the training themselves, and see more results, because I know how to train every personality style out there so that they all walk away ready to do something. Whereas most leaders only know how to train their personality style, which is why they only get about 25% of their team going and doing anything when they train them. Whereas I train their people, they're getting a much higher conversion with more of their team going out and selling or recruiting or leading in more effective ways, because I'm able to speak to all 4 personality styles during my trainings.
That is a superpower for sure. So you talked a little bit about what makes your direct sales women, the ones that you work with, successful, the persistence and mindset. Thinking about the listener, most of the listeners are women, but a surprising amount are men, because there's a ton of info and value in this podcast. But speaking to all kinds of saleswomen, not necessarily in direct sales, obviously. What else would you say makes a successful salesperson, and what is your advice around that?
I would have to say the lifelong learners, right? One of my friends, Kimberly Lebbing, I had her train on one of my virtual summits that I do every year. And she said, the 4 most dangerous words that any business professional, so sales or not, the 4 most dangerous words that anyone can say are, I already know that. Right? And so I have taken that to heart. She taught that on my summit about 18 months ago. And here I am still remembering those words, because anytime I find myself starting to say those things or even think them, oh, I already know that. I'm like, no, because whoever's talking today about that topic, maybe they have a different take on it. Maybe there's a deeper understanding that I can get of that, right? So I'm always, and what I see from the most successful people in business they are learners. They are either reading books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences and conventions, and they're going to the training portions, not just the
rah.
Yeah, exactly. They're actually participating. And then in addition to the learning, because information minus application equals information. Information plus application. Yeah, well, it gets better, because this is how you grow. Information plus application equals growth. Right? You've got to apply what you learn. Like, learning for the sake of learning is wonderful, but if you never do anything with it, you're not going to grow as quickly as you could.
That's right. It's all in your brain, and that's not helping the other people, and it's not helping you grow.
The one thing the business world can't ever take away from you is your learning.
Right. And I know you have my book right there, and most people are probably listening, but we're both holding up a great way to learn self-promotion here, Uncopyable Sales Secrets. And I talk a lot about the qualities I see that make people successful. And of course, like you said, reading books, listening to podcasts, and your podcast is phenomenal. And going to conferences, networking, wherever you can get that information and continuing to grow. That's a great one.
Today's podcast is sponsored by the acclaimed book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets, How to Create an Unfair Advantage and Outsell Your Competition by Kay Miller. Put the secrets in this book to work, and you'll make more sales, grow your network, and become a top earner. See the show notes or go to Amazon.com and search for Uncopyable Sales Secrets to order the book right now.
I'm going to just push you and say, what else can people do to succeed?
Ooh, what can they do to succeed?
Well,
I think it really comes with setting very specific goals for themselves and going through. And when you're looking at those goals, setting the goals that are, 6 months out, a year out, 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. What are those? What's the progression of your goals, right? Because the thing I hear quite often, and now that I've been coaching full time for 7 years, I see this happen all the time. We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years. So we oftentimes set these really lofty goals for 1 year, and then 3 to 5 years, the goals that are 3 to 5 years out, we end up hitting them so much sooner, right? Because we didn't quite hit that first year goal. And as long as we stuck around because we realized, oh, hey, I only got 80% of that goal, or I only hit 85 or 90% of that goal. Still, you hit 80 to 95%.
Celebrate that. Right. You're a success. Right.
Because most people probably wouldn't have even hit that. I mean, it's because we set those lofty goals. There's nothing wrong with setting a slightly lofty goal. It's a stretch goal. As long as it is attainable, it's just, we also take into account life happens in a year. My gosh, weather, sometimes a global pandemic.
Oh my gosh. Pathetically speaking, right?
Pathetically speaking, or we know historically it's happened 2 or 3 times off my knowledge. Right.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have one of those again in our lifetime. But it's setting those goals and really being able to, and I think specifically track them.
I'm going to ask you, do you have a system that you use?
I do. When I'm setting goals with my clients, when I'm helping them set their goals, and then what we do is we actually chunk them down and we do what I call road mapping, because I am their GPS, their business GPS, helping them get from where they are to where they want to go. And so we are road mapping out that goal. So breaking it into chunks and benchmarks so that they know if they're on track or off track and what do they need to do. And we're actually going through, and then in addition to each or as we look at each benchmark, we are then breaking down and going, okay, what are the mechanisms? What are the things I'm going to do that will help me reach that goal? Right.
That's a great one. The action steps, the specific things they are going to do.
It's because so many people stop at just the initial setting of the goal. The smarter people take it to the next level and break it down. But the really, really smart people go, okay, now how, right? What are the possible hows to get me there? Right. Because I think if we don't take action, so many people love the law of attraction, which is fantastic, right? Law of attraction is fantastic. But what are the last 6 letters in attraction?
Action. I got that. You know what? I have an interesting story about that. Steve's mother, so my mother-in-law, lived with us for several years, and she was single, and she was dying to have a man to share her life with. The problem was she rarely left the house. And so, you can imagine, I'd love to go to the theater and movies and dinners and all these things with a man. And we were saying, Fern, you have to go out and do that. Like you said, the law of attraction, you can visualize what you want, but you really do have to say, okay, how am I going to make that happen? And then you have to do it.
Yeah, because the universe wants to answer the question, but if you don't leave
give it a little help.
If you don't leave your house, how's that going to happen, right? And the same is true for your business. We can set these goals, but if we don't take action towards them, if we don't follow the plan, if we don't create a plan, if we just go, it kills me the number of people who think that if they just wish it, it will be so. And it's like, no, do something about it, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's just the littlest steps that move you forward. It doesn't have to be these massive, undertaking. Sometimes it's just as simple. One of the clients that I worked with actually in the last quarter, her goal was to enroll 4 new clients and create a director on her team every month. So sorry, my cat
I think I see your cat,
crazy.
right?
Yeah, my cat's going crazy behind me. I'm like, stop it. Her goal was to enroll 4 new customers and develop a director on her team. So a team builder on her team, right? So I said, okay, how are you going to get there? What are you going to do? And so her first step to work towards that was, I'm going to talk to one person every day about this business. Whether it's as a customer, whether it's as, a potential business partner coming into the business with her, she was going to have one conversation every day that month. And I said, okay, great. Where are you going to find those people? Like, how are you going to set yourself up for success in this? And so then she created a list. So she was doing this in the month of August. There's 31 days in August. And so she made a list of 31 people to talk to. And then she just had to go through and check off each day as she talked to them. That was it.
Baby steps. As long as you're consistent with baby steps, you're going to get there.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And then the next month she said, okay, now I'm going to talk to 2 people a month or 2 people a day, because talking to one a day, she was like, oh, this was so easy. Okay, great. In the month of September now, 30 days, 2 people a day. In October, she's working on 3 a day now, right? And her business is starting to show in the results, because not everybody signed on back in August, but there are people she talked to in August who have become clients, who have become her customers in October. Because what she was doing was spreading the seeds in August, and she's getting to reap the harvest in October.
That's right. Sowing the seeds. So it takes time, and it takes consistent effort. So I think that's really good. And you really boiling them down to the exact steps you'll take. And in sales too, that's worked for me as far as when I have slumps in sales. You can't always control your results, but you can control the actions that will lead to those results. Yeah. And that's basically what you're saying.
Exactly. And successful people do what they can have control over, right? And they let go of the things that they have no control over, right? They don't worry about, inflation or things like that. They go, okay, I don't have control over that. It's going to happen. What do I have control over? What can I do instead? Right. And so I think that's one of the big differences between successful people and non-successful people or people who are working towards being successful, we'll put it that way, is really knowing what to take action on and what to make a part of your focus. Right. Because if you have no control over it, why are you worrying about it? Why are you freaking out? There's nothing you can do. So go do something that you can do something.
And one thing that you do, and I'm curious how you attract your clients. I think that your branding is huge, because you told me before, you're not for everyone. Not everyone is going to want to work with a sales dom. And like you say, you have these tongue-in-cheek sayings, I need to talk to you now, or you have some sayings that are really fun. What do you say?
Right. So for the people that I'm working with, that they know that it's we're going to whip the business into shape, right? Right. And we're just using some of the kink terminology to discuss different things and go into that world, right? And so it's some of the things that I end up talking to my clients about and utilizing as part of this is, okay, you hired me because you want accountability. That's part of why every one of my clients hires me, is they want some form of accountability. And I'm like, I am more than happy as the direct sales dom to be the harsh, did you do the shit or not? Like,
that's right.
Or do you want the loving dom, which I'm perfectly happy doing as well? How can I support you in getting this done? Because everybody needs something different. Some people are like, nope, I need the harsh Jennie today. Okay. I need the soft Jennie today. Okay.
That's right. And that's all about, getting to know your customers, getting to know your moose and serving their needs, not, like you said, not giving them just the package, the generic package, but really serving people differently. And of course, you have your podcast, which, since you said the word shit, which is okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's totally, I don't think anybody will be offended by that. In fact, we heard on a football game, one of the players after the play said something about that was good shit or something. And they're all like, oh my gosh. Oh, we just bleeped that out. Like it's some big deal. So something you hear in kindergarten, right? And you have an adult podcast. Again, that's not for everyone. And I assume that is one of the ways that you attract a lot of your customers. Is that true?
I do. Yeah. So the podcast attracts people in two different ways. One way, the really obvious way, is the listener, right? The listener is out there. They're looking for a podcast to listen to. And they stumble upon my podcast because they type in the right keyword, whether it's sales, leadership, direct sales, MLM, whatever it may be. I've got a bunch of keywords associated with my podcast to attract the right people for what they want to learn. And so I've had listeners who then listened, reached out, said, I want to have a conversation. I've decided I need to work with you. And we have a conversation and they become my client. So that's one way that I've attracted people in. The other way that I attract people in through the podcast is through my guest seat. So I put out there that I'm interviewing people of a certain, company, or maybe I'm interviewing right now, at the time that we're recording this, I am interviewing 100 six-figure leaders in direct sales. My goal is to have 100 conversations about how they went from 0 to 100K or higher. What did they do in that time frame, right? How did they get from 0 to 100K? What was their biggest stumbling block? So that way other people can avoid that stumbling block, or they know what to do to get past it. Or what was the thing they're really glad they did because it ended up getting them there faster than they thought they would have, right? So just having those kinds of conversations that allows me to learn so I can share with my clients, but it also allows the listener to learn as well at the same time. So we're helping so many people. Right now I have 1,000 subscribers across all of my distribution. And so there's at least 1,000 people who are going to learn how to make $100,000 or more.
Right. And I'm assuming that some of those people are potential clients for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I also want to talk to those leaders because once upon a time, they may not have thought that they needed someone like me because they're like, I'm making the money. It's fine. But then through the course of them starting to listen to the podcast themselves, maybe they go, ooh, I didn't know that. Oh, Jennie knows that. Oh, maybe she can help me, right? Gets them to have a conversation with me, right? That's one of the great benefits of podcasting is you can get your ideal client to talk to you.
That's
and
right.
And they're excited to do it because they want to be on your show.
Yes. And that, because it benefits everyone. When I was on your show, then I got to put my lead magnet out and that brings clients to me so that it is a win-win. Now, as a new podcaster, I have to say it's not a small endeavor.
No.
Especially, already I've learned so much. I told you my first interviews kind of sucked. I'm getting a lot better. I've learned how to do the editing, and I just hired your podcast producer that you recommended, named Jazzy, to promote the podcast. And so I thank you for that recommendation because I know you said your podcast has exploded your business, and
absolutely,
I'm very excited about that. A lot of people listening, though, won't be able to start a podcast or won't have the desire to do that. But I do encourage even just B2B salespeople or any kind of salesperson to become a thought leader and to give out content that will help people. And that will naturally, of course, draw people to you. So I think that's a great strategy.
Absolutely. Because it doesn't have to, like you said, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It can be a weekly. I know there's some people out there who do like a weekly Facebook interview with somebody, right? Where they just say, let's hop on Facebook, do a Facebook Live. We'll talk for 30 minutes and then we'll hop off. Or they do that on LinkedIn Live, or they do an Instagram Live, or they do a TikTok Live together. What?
So many choices.
Pick your platform and go do it there, right? You don't have to have a podcast. But the really cool thing is if you do things like that and then you record what you're doing, you can absolutely take that conversation you had that you were going to have anyway on Facebook, throw it out on a podcast app. I mean, double dip. Why not?
Yeah.
If you're already going to do the conversation, you absolutely can do that. Hey, start out small. That's what I did. I didn't have Jazzy working for me the first month that I was in business. I didn't hire her for 18 months until after I started. I did.
Yeah, I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks to you, but yeah.
Right?
Well, I have to point out too, you just reached recently 50,000 downloads, which, I need to set a goal of when and how I'm going to do that.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think I haven't even checked my downloads recently. I'm probably a lot higher now. Because I think the last time I checked, that was probably about 90 days ago. So I'm probably somewhere around 60,000 or 70,000 by now, maybe. I don't know.
That's great. And of course, like so many things we're talking about, momentum kicks in. Like you said, if somebody talks to one person a day, then they start getting those successes. They get used to it. They get better at it. Then they say, okay, two people a day, then 3 people a day. And same thing with your podcast. I'm sure it's a hockey stick and you're on the stick part.
Yes,
right now. So like I said, you've stuck with this and it's paid off. So,
well, and that's the key to being successful in anything is that persistence. And it's true for podcasting as much as it is business, because podcasting is a part of business. So it makes sense that, when you can have that consistency and persistence to stick with it, even when you're like, oh, I'm not seeing returns yet. No, trust me. I'm one of the few who saw returns early on because I listened to my podcast coach and did exactly what he told me to. So I monetized before Apple had approved me. But
that's
I think,
great, by the way. Yeah. We don't have time and we're winding down on time. I hate to say it, but you'll have to come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what you've done
sure.
to do that. But
absolutely.
You've done a lot of things right and you have stuck with it. And I know just from our conversations, along with being a lifelong learner, you have to keep feeding your brain and your soul and get encouragement. So many of the people listening, and of course the direct sales has a network, but a lot of this is on your own and you have to find a way to keep yourself up. So, like I say, your podcast, other podcasts are great ways to do that. And do you have any other ways that you use that can be our final kind of closing thoughts? You're super motivated anyway, but do you have anything besides the things you mentioned that you use to keep your mindset really positive?
I surround myself with the right people. I can't remember who said it, but you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so I make sure that I curate my 5 people that I spend the most time with very carefully, because they've got to be people who pour into me in a positive way. Not saying that they have to do all the things for me, but you know what I mean, right? They are positive people. They believe in me. They push me. They encourage me. I don't have any anchors holding me back. I've got people who want me to succeed and they want to help me succeed and they do what they can to help me succeed. Those are my 5 people. I curate that group very, very carefully, and not just the 5 people that I spend the most time with, the 10 people, the 20 people. Like I do my best to let my own light push the dark people, and I mean that like negative, like
right.
like skin color.
There's no hidden meaning there, right?
No, none at all. I literally mean the people who would be a drag on me. They don't want to be anywhere near me because the light is just too bright. I
love that.
I'm too positive. And so those people who go, you're too positive, you're too much. Yes, I am for you. So peace out.
Right. And, I have loved talking to the women on this podcast because it does seem like the really successful people and want to help each other. they are, they're very generous with their time and enthusiasm for other people. I've just been blown away by the people I've interviewed. It's great because this podcast, of course, is all about women helping women, especially. And I've just been very, very pleasantly surprised with how that has happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, based on that, may I make a request? Because I have something that can help people in direct sales. I have a whole page on my website where I have devoted all of my resources, all of my free tools are in one place. And so I've got all kinds of free resources. So if they go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com/direct-sales-resources.
I will put that in the show notes so that it will be very easy for people to click on it. But yes, I encourage you to check out, and you're just going to love Jennie's website, and you'll learn lots more about her branding, which is brave, but it's not, like you said, it's tongue in cheek. It's fun. You're a mom. And so it is your persona and you do live it. But, I think it's just, like I said, a brilliant brand. So I will put that in the show notes, and I encourage everyone to check that out. And also Jennie's podcast, whether or not you are in direct sales, it's just really, really great. And, Jennie's been a huge influence on me starting my podcast. So I appreciate that. See, you could be one of my 5.
Aww,
so yes, definitely. You're probably a lot of people's 5. So on that note, I'm going to close out, and I'm going to say I so appreciate you being on the podcast, and can't wait to watch your future journey of success. So thank you very much, Jennie.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncopyable Women in Sales, your source for secrets you can use to make more sales. Check the show notes for links and contact information. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please spread the word by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. You can always learn more by going to uncopyablesales.com/podcast. Until next time, go out and supercharge your sales like a true uncopyable rock star.